Welcome to the podcast.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the British Accent Podcast. I'm Emily, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Nick. Today's topic is something a little mysterious, a little fascinating, and maybe something you've even experienced yourself without realizing how meaningful it is. We're talking about the English you dream in, what it says about your progress and your journey as a language learner.
That's right, Emily. I love this topic because it's not just about textbooks or practice sessions, it's about what happens deep in your mind, when you're asleep and your brain is doing its own thing. If you've ever woken up and thought, wait a second, I just had a dream in English, it can feel almost magical. And many learners wonder, does this mean I'm fluent now? Does dreaming in English show real progress? Or is it just random?
Exactly, and I remember the first time I dreamed in another language. It was such a surreal experience. I woke up smiling, like, wow, my brain is actually working in this language even when I'm not awake. For a lot of learners, that moment feels like a milestone, a secret sign that English is no longer just something you're studying, but something that's becoming part of your inner world.
And that's what makes it so fascinating. Because dreaming in English isn't about memorizing grammar or vocabulary, it's about your brain reaching a level of comfort where English sneaks into your subconscious. So, in today's episode, we're going to explore why that happens, what it means, and whether it's really proof of progress, or just one piece of the puzzle.
We'll also share some stories from learners who've had these experiences, and we'll talk about what you can do to increase your chances of dreaming in English. Because believe it or not, you can give your brain a little nudge in that direction.
So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's dive into this fascinating world of dreams, language, and progress.
I still remember the first time I dreamed in English. It wasn't even a complicated dream. I was at a cafe ordering a coffee, and the person behind the counter spoke to me in English. I answered back without hesitation, without translating in my head, and everything just flowed. When I woke up, I was so surprised because it felt so natural in the dream. That moment gave me a huge confidence boost, because it meant English wasn't just something I used in class or with friends, it was now part of my unconscious mind.
That's such a great example, and it shows how progress in language learning isn't always visible in the ways we expect. You might not feel fluent during the day, you might still pause, still make mistakes, but then your brain gives you this surprise at night, like a secret message. Hey, you're actually doing better than you think. For me, I had a dream where I was traveling, and I was asking for directions. The funny part was, even in the dream, I didn't understand everything the person said. But instead of panicking, I just asked him to repeat it. And when I woke up, I thought, wow, my dream self is calmer than my real self.
That's amazing. It's like your brain rehearses situations without you even trying. And sometimes, dreams can reflect where you are in your learning. At first, maybe you just hear English in the background of your dream. Later, you start speaking simple phrases. And eventually, you might find yourself having full conversations. It's almost like your subconscious is tracking your progress before you consciously notice it.
Yes, and I think that's what makes dreaming in English so exciting. It's not a perfect test of fluency, it doesn't mean you're suddenly fluent, but it does show that your brain is integrating English into your deeper thought processes. And to me, that's a really big sign of progress.
Absolutely, Nick. And you know, there's actually some science behind why this happens. When we sleep, especially during the stage called REM sleep, the part where most of our vivid dreaming occurs, our brain is processing and organizing memories. So if you've been surrounding yourself with English during the day, your brain doesn't just shut it off at night. It continues working with that input, sometimes turning it into dream scenarios. It's like your mind's way of practicing without you even realizing it.
Right, and I think that's why so many learners notice they dream in English more often when they've had a heavy day of exposure. Like maybe you watched a movie in English, listened to a podcast, or had a long chat with a friend. All that input is fresh in your mind, and when you sleep, your brain sorts through it. Sometimes, that sorting takes the form of dreams. It's almost like your subconscious is doing revision for you.
And here's the cool part. In dreams, we don't always follow grammar rules perfectly. We don't always choose the right words, but the point is that our brain is testing how automatic the language has become. If you can hold a conversation in English in your sleep, it shows that English is moving from being something you consciously control to something more natural and automatic.
Yes, and I love that idea, because progress in language learning isn't only about what you can show on a test. It's also about what your brain is absorbing and how comfortable you're becoming with the language overall. Dreaming in English is one of those hidden signs that your effort is paying off.
And let's be honest, it's also just a fun milestone. It feels exciting, almost magical, to wake up and realize, I dreamed in English. It's proof that learning a language is not just about study, it's about transformation.
That's a great idea, Emily. Because I know a lot of our listeners might be wondering, okay, so how do I get to that point? How can I actually dream in English more often? And while we can't control our dreams completely, there are definitely ways to encourage your brain to use English at night.
Yes. One of the simplest tips is to surround yourself with English right before bed. For example, instead of scrolling through social media in your native language, you could watch a short English video, read a page from a book, or even listen to calming English audio as you fall asleep. That way, English is the last input your brain receives before you drift off.
That's powerful. I actually tried that once with music. I listened to English songs before bed for a few nights in a row, and eventually, parts of the lyrics showed up in my dreams. It wasn't like I was singing perfectly, but my brain had stored those sounds and words, and it reused them.
Another technique is to think in English before sleeping. You can try a little self-talk, like replaying your day in English in your head, or imagining a conversation you might have tomorrow. Even just a few minutes of this can signal to your brain, okay, English is part of my inner world.
And I'd add, don't stress if it doesn't happen immediately. Some learners wait years before their first English dream, while others experience it quite early. It depends on your level, your environment, and sometimes just chance. The important thing is to keep exposing yourself to the language consistently, and let your brain take care of the rest.
Exactly. Dreams are unpredictable, but the more you live with English, the more likely it is to sneak into your dream world. And when it does, it's not only exciting, it's a clear sign that your relationship with the language is deepening.
Yes, because I've heard so many funny and interesting stories from learners about their first English dreams. One friend of mine told me that in her dream, she was shopping in London, and she kept asking the shop assistant, "How much is this?" over and over again. She laughed when she woke up, because it was such a simple phrase, but it showed her brain was practicing something she had just learned in class.
That's so relatable. I remember one learner telling me that his very first English dream was actually stressful. He was in an exam room, and the teacher kept asking him questions in English. He didn't know the answers, but instead of freezing, he kept speaking, making up funny responses. When he woke up, he said, "Maybe it was a nightmare, but at least I was speaking." It shows that even dreams with pressure can be useful.
And sometimes the dreams are just plain weird. I once dreamed I was at a dinner table with my favorite movie characters, and we were all speaking English together. I don't even remember what we were saying, but I woke up smiling because I had been part of this big conversation in English without any hesitation.
I love that, and I think those stories remind us that dreams reflect our imagination as much as our learning. Whether it's ordering food, taking an exam, or chatting with superheroes, the fact that English appears in your dream means your brain is becoming more and more comfortable with it.
Exactly, and it doesn't matter if your dream English is perfect or not, it's the presence of English in your subconscious that really counts.
Yes, because it's not just about language, it's also about how it makes you feel. For many learners, dreaming in English is emotional. It feels like a breakthrough, like they've unlocked a new part of themselves. I've had students tell me they cried happy tears after their first English dream, because it proved to them that all the effort, all the frustration, was actually changing their brain.
That's so true, and it's powerful, because when you realize English is no longer just an outside skill you're forcing yourself to learn, but something that's living inside your thoughts and even your dreams, it boosts your confidence. It's almost like English is no longer a guest in your mind, it's becoming a resident. That changes your whole relationship with the language.
Exactly. It's a psychological shift. You stop seeing English as just homework and start seeing it as a part of your identity. Even if you're not fluent yet, that dream tells you, hey, you belong in this language. And that belief can push you forward more than any textbook ever could.
I couldn't agree more, and what's interesting is that sometimes, after a learner has their first English dream, they start noticing more changes in their daily life. They think less in their native language, they translate less, and they begin to use English more naturally. It's almost like the dream opened the door, and now their mind is ready to walk through it.
And that's why I think it's worth celebrating. It's not the ultimate proof of fluency, but it is a symbol of progress, and progress deserves recognition.
I think that's a perfect direction, Emily. Because sometimes learners put so much pressure on themselves. They hear about others dreaming in English and think, why haven't I had that yet? Maybe I'm not good enough. But that's the wrong way to see it. Dreaming in English isn't a test you pass or fail, it's just one of many signs on the road.
Exactly. And even if you've never dreamed in English, it doesn't mean you're not making progress. Progress shows up in so many forms. Maybe it's the first time you understood a movie without subtitles, or the first time you laughed at a joke in English, or the first time you spoke to someone without planning every word. Those are just as valuable as an English dream.
Yes, yes, yes. And if you do have that dream, treat it like a little gift from your brain. A gentle reminder that English is becoming part of your inner world. Don't think, okay, now I've made it, I don't need to practice anymore. Instead, think, wow, I'm moving forward. Let's keep going.
And I think that's the real power of these moments. They give you motivation. When you wake up from a dream in English, you feel inspired to keep learning, because you've had a glimpse of the future version of yourself, the one who uses English naturally, without hesitation.
Beautifully said, Emily, and I hope our listeners take this to heart. Whether your dreams are in English, in your native language, or even in some strange mix of both, every day you spend with English is changing your brain in powerful ways.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode of the British Accent Podcast. We really hope you enjoyed our little guide on navigating social interactions in English and that you're feeling more confident about blending politeness with natural flow.
Remember, the goal isn't just to memorize phrases, but to understand the feeling behind them so you can adapt to different situations.
Exactly. And don't worry if you don't sound perfect right away. Every attempt you make is practice, and every conversation is a step closer to fluency.
Thank you for listening and spending time with us. We'll be back with more tips, stories, and conversations to help you grow in your English journey.
Until next time, keep practicing, keep smiling, and keep speaking.
See you soon.